Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Wednesday, February 12th. We have an update and it probably shows a lack of focusing on the important stuff when the newest update updates ads on Magic and just puts out deals. This was a kind of huge update. They're gonna have deals every day now, which, like, I can't really agree with that. Like, the new thing I have here is I see the store, and here actually is something I'd kind of like to have. Let me ask this question though: if I were to get these fancy scars. No, I want to click this little question mark. And you can't click the question mark. So, trickery is abound. Like, I get it. Like, I kind of would like these skins for the lands. These look nice, but the thing I don't know here is, are these skins going to be playable for a very long time? Or are these skins going to potentially be banned when you're not using, when this expansion, this little logo here goes away? Or also, do these skins only work for lands that you would have from a certain expansion? I guess that really wouldn't change. Like, there's some weirdness here. Then you also have to get to the truth of the matter here. Like, $3, 3,000 gold is a lot. This is 1,500 gold. That's roughly paying, I would say, $16, $17 just for these fancy skins. That's asking definitely a lot. Here you have a pack of 5 skins for specific cards that you'll see a lot less than land for 1,600 gems, which A, I don't have, and B, is not really a good deal. And then here we have a collection of some black colored skins, which I guess would help me particularly since I play black cards, but I don't play any of these cards. So that's still not really a good deal. Here they now are labeling this as the great deal and the most popular deal. I don't think that there is much of a improvement. Like, I guess you're maybe getting 800 gems more compared to buying the $50 bundle. And I guess maybe you're getting, let's see, 400 gems more if you buy the versus the, no, you can't even really run that numbers because 20 doesn't just double into 50 in the same way that 50 doubles into 100. So they're hiding the way you would calculate that. There's no real sales on buying packs. Also, not really sure that there's a reason to buy packs. So this will refresh in 1 hour and 24 minutes, which is an odd time to decide to refresh because that's Central Time in the United States would be 11. So it's like noon Eastern or Pacific if I knew which direction to go. That's kind of a weird time to reset. And it's a little weird again because some of these cards are going to be banned quicker than others, and they're not really worth, like, none of the skins are really worth spending money on. This offer ends soon, they say. This actually would be one of the actual things that is kind of worth it because it's going to give you a bunch of cards that you could play in historic, and they're actual cards instead of skins. whereas everything else is just a skin. And there's no bundle, I guess, to buy the land. We still have yet to see any discount on the avatars, and I don't think we'll really see any of that. And we're having, I can't even tell what this is. It says Bitter Blossom Sleeve. I can't really zoom in on it to see. This is a cartoony goblin. This is just a gravestone with some ravens. This is a lynx, Egyptian cat. This is a woman with a third eye. I think this is a Hydra type dragon. It's called the Silver Overlord sleeve. Can't even really tell. All of these are particularly expensive, but they do cost gold. Whereas it seems like they've kind of painted themselves into a corner where the other sleeves that were way more expensive now in comparison, like they can't reduce the price or are unwilling to reduce the price because of it. Take a note of the comparison here. Also, you have 600 to 4,000 gold, 600 gems to 4,000 gold. That's a pretty big difference there. Let's see. We're halfway up Silver Tier 1, and we just need to do daily quests. And let's see if there's anything else to mention here. But meanwhile, there's no chat system between friends. A direct challenge and friend challenge is about it. They still haven't put in real people 8-person draft. They don't have any new play mode right now, and we kind of know that this draft is going to go away after 2 weeks, for a couple weeks, not after 2 weeks, for a couple weeks, pretty soon. And so it's uncertain what drafts will exist. And I have this traditional draft entry, which I assume would work here, but maybe not. Maybe this literally only works for traditional draft. Which, is there a traditional draft like here? Yeah, we have a ticket entry where we could do traditional draft right now, and that would give us gems if we win, and more Theros Beyond Death cards. And I guess we kind of have to do that. So let's just start doing that. Okay. So as far as rare drafting at this point, I don't have to do too much of that because I pretty much have everything. But also I can't kind of avoid it if I want. So we have a 3.5 here that we're missing 1 copy of. Or we have a 3.0 that we have only 1 copy of, but I think this is the best because this is a 3.5 and we only have 2 copies of this, whereas this not quite as good, but we only have 1 copy of it. So let's start with that, and that puts us down a path towards blue. This is not particularly the greatest card, but I only have 1 copy of it. We still kind of are going to rare draft, but we're just kind of hoping that maybe we'll win. We're missing a copy of this. Okay, so as far as the blue cards, we have 4 copies of those. So then we could take this card, which is a 1.5 or 1.8 in a 3.5. This one is a 3.0. Let's see. I'm gonna take this one. And then this is the 3.5, and we are missing a copy of that. And this is the 3.5, and we're missing a copy of that. So we're missing one copy of this. This really is just boiling down to finishing out the collection as much as you realistically will be able to, which I think in Magic's case kind of means you just get enough cards to you get just enough cards to get all the commons and uncommons, and then that's about it. So if we're gonna do blue and red, we probably need to get that. Or if we're gonna do green and red, we need to think about that. Alright, we're missing a copy of this, and we're missing 3 copies of this. I'll take that, and then this is a pretty bad card. This is a pretty bad card. This is like the best card you can get is this one out of a bad selection. I guess what I can do here, my chat here, it was messed up, so there we go. Yeah, I'll just bring up the chat on YouTube and then I can watch it that way. But that does have some flaws. Okay, now this is a 2.0 and this is like the best card out of the selection. This is a 3.0 and that's the best out of the selection. Then both of these are pretty bad. Alright. So we have a 3.5 to get a copy here. We have 2 copies of that. We have 3 copies of this, and that's a 3.0. We have, I believe that says either a 6, which would be crazy, or a 4.0. So I think I should get this. Like, it would be really silly if it turns out that the best option to get is always just the first card. And so all you have to do is just pick the first card always. Let's see. Well, it says this is pretty good. This would be another blue-red combo. I already have 4 copies of it though, so I don't know if I want to do that. Like, actively making the wrong choice. This one's not bad, so I'll take that. And let's see, this is a 2.5 and we only have 1 copy. I mean, it kind of becomes fairly obvious why this apparently is terrible. It starts to become fairly obvious why we don't have so many copies of these cards. It's because they are just garbage cards. And there's a decent chance that this will be the last of the last of the just drawings of drafts that we do for this expansion. I think there's a decent argument to be made that we've gone as far as we can rare drafting, and it's not like I'm really learning a lot doing these drafts. Honestly, if I was playing against real people, I probably would learn a lot better. But because I'm just playing against random people, this is a bad card, but I'm missing one. This is a better card, but it's white, so I wouldn't play it. Which doesn't really matter. This is a terrible card. I guess in the long run you do just want to get the good cards. There's a fourth Field of Ruin. This is a third of this card. I'm missing this card or this card. Both of these cards are pretty awful. So, I guess we'll take that. And then I'll take that. And then have to take that one. Here's a new card we don't have, so it would be fairly insane not to take it. Plus, it's either a 4 or 6. I wish I could read the numbers on the overlay a little bit bigger. Maybe there's some way to configure that and make it larger. But also, the real solution I need to do is, I don't have this card either, so I'm gonna take it. There is, like, I need to get a second monitor. That's what I need to do. Just have a monitor closer to me than a TV that's 10 feet across the room. Like, that works for most games. Like, when I'm playing something like Snake Pass, that's not a problem. There's not, the text is nice and big. It's a game designed for being playing on that couch, laid back experience. I oddly don't have a copy of this. It's a pretty awful card at, I think, a 0.05, but you know, I'll just take it anyways. This is the one we want to take, and I probably want to take this one. It's not a great card. Or I could take this and fill in this. Let's see. And then this is a slightly better card at a 2, where this is like a 1.5. But this would also be a more playable card. So I'm gonna take that. And then let's see. This is a 2.0, and this is a 1.0. This is a 2.5. And I guess if I was going to take something, I'd take this one. This is a pretty awful card, so let's take this one. Alright, we're missing one of these, which is, I think, a little bit better than that. And then this is the one we're missing, so we'll take that. And then it becomes down to this. The Mirror Shield actually seemed like it's labeled as a pretty awful card, but I feel like it's actually a little bit more valuable. So I'm gonna take it. So let's see if we can do this. We have 7 white, 4 black, 12 green, 12 red, 9 blue. Alright, so if we just assume that we're going to get rid of the white and black, I think we can pretty easily make that assumption. Let's see. And then I think we're probably going to get rid of the blue. Let's see, why is there one white plane here? Because this requires one white. I take that, and then that just leaves Field of Ruin, and so do we want a 3-color combo? I don't think I'm smart enough to know how to play that, so I'm just gonna pull out all the blues, and then it will come down to asking, do we want Mirror Shield, which is probably not worth having. Let's see, this is a blue, so if I get rid of this, I think that's probably the only blue. Yeah. Why do we still have 2 planes? There's still a white card in this. Interesting. This is a white card. Alright. So that brings us down to 39. And I don't think that there's something I'd want to bring in here. If I could bring in my other cards, then sure, I might bring in the spinning wheel and then bring in something like this. I don't think there's any way to double your cards that you drafted. You have to play with the draft cards, yeah. So then we just need to, I guess, look and see that it's a break-even movement. So just go with 1 extra mountain and you'll have 40 cards. And we're just gonna have to play with what we've got and see how this goes. Yep, we're looking for 5 wins, which would get us 2,100 gems. Minimum, we want to get 3 wins before 2 losses, which, ooh, this could end very quickly. So we're hoping that the bots we're playing against are going to be particularly stupid today. But yeah, 2,100 gems still wouldn't give me enough gems for the next mastery season, which we still are 2 months plus away from that happening, so there's still plenty of other opportunities to get gems, but it is going to be somewhat difficult. Why do I have to wait for a bot? That's a question, certainly. Alright, do we have what we want? Creates a token with the creature can't block. This would be 1 mana. Can't attack unless you control another creature with 4 or greater. When this enters the field, search your library for a basic land and put it on the field. +0/+2. This is not going to be a great starting hand, but I don't think I want a mulligan. So, let's do this. And we'll do this. Like, this ability, even if I could equip it onto this guy, I don't think would help. Because this can't block. see. So we've got this character that can't attack now. Let's see, what does this do? Let's see. Well, we play this. And then we take control of this. And we go ahead and scry that to the bottom. And then we can attack for 9 damage. That's a relatively good start. So on Monday we streamed, and every time I would shift in my chair, my back would spasm like crazy. As far as the accountability section goes, this is it. After that, I assume the reason my back is particularly hurting is because I bent over and did some plumbing, and that was possibly a mistake, even though it probably also saved me a considerable amount of money as far as compared to hiring a real plumber. This guy can block. Let's see. I guess I should attack here. This is getting buffed up. So after the stream on Monday, which I probably should have ended a little bit earlier than I did, I spent the past 2 days basically lying in bed trying to heal. It's going to take a lot longer than that, almost certainly, but one thing I guess to take away from that is I didn't really do anything. I did work on my server, which is just this constant, like, is it going to work, is it not going to work situation. Is it going to find a way to... Let's see. This one would sacrifice, this one would give it the ability to block. Well, that sucked. And I guess we can play this at this point. And we're gonna have to exile these 2 cards. Yeah, but this is just getting beefed up, and so I'm first of 2 losses, very possibly right here. Like I've got no defense here at all. So scrying not really gonna help. I can activate his ability, I guess, and put some things on in the graveyard, but that doesn't really help with anything else. So yeah, I've immediately lost. I did get some videos uploaded, but then I screwed up how the timing was on those videos, so they're scheduled to come out at the wrong times, and I'm gonna have to go back and manually edit each of those 11 videos that got uploaded. So that's a problem. Also, I don't think I did the previous playlist work that needed to be done. So there's more paperwork as far as YouTube is concerned that needs to be done. But yeah, I'm not really planning on doing... Interesting. What does this timer mean? Are we playing against real people all of a sudden? Let's see. Can I look at somebody else's deck, or am I just playing against this person over and over again? Like, is there something I could even change here that would help? No, I think I am just playing against this one person multiple times. Play first or draw first? I think I need to play first. And as stupid as this sounds, let's see. Do I want to keep this hand with this much land missing? So what are the odds? What are the odds that I'm going to be able to do this right? And win here. Yeah, this kind of feels like I'm playing against a real person. Either that or they've just drastically in this new update changed things, which is also very much a possibility. Let's see. Haste. Alright, we'll take haste. And then we'll attack here, here, and here. Well, apparently he was more afraid of that card than I thought. Which, that card certainly would have been somewhat useful. So yeah, anyways, there's with back problems, I'm probably not going to get very far as getting things done. So we probably should just start covering the news, of which we have a decent amount. Guess there's really no reason not to do this. And do this. Disenchanted creature can't attack or block. Interesting. Let's see. Well, that was probably a cheap pop play I just did, not as wisely used as it should be. So yeah, we'll just cover the news and then I pretty much need to get back to where I will get back to just lying in bed and trying to not aggravate my condition as much as possible. It's incredibly frustrating, and I imagine this is true for a lot of people when you try to do something and your body just decides no, you can't do that, or you're gonna pay so much in pain or actual damage to your body to do something very basic. Let's see. So now we have a 1/1 land, which does us no good. So yeah, I guess we just should cover the news and move forward. It seems like we have a decent chance here of having all immediate loss. Like, I don't see what I can do here. Like, either I do no blocks and let him kill me in 2 turns, or I do some blocks and try something different. I mean, I guess I could probably power through and do several attacks here. Like, it wouldn't really kill me to bring that on the field, but then that kind of doesn't do anything. Why is that, like, why is that tapped? So I can attack here, but that won't work. Inherently, this is what I have a problem with drafts, is that there's just no logic in it until you are really, really deep into Magic. Until you really, really know what you're doing. I gotta defend here, I'm just gonna lose. You're just gonna rare draft. You're just gonna get cards that you want in your collection. You're at best going to do a 1 or 2 color mana deck build, and you're still going to lose pretty effectively in the first effort. So here I can just attack, but it doesn't matter. This guy was gonna attack with his flying and win. My only hope here is that maybe I misunderstand traditional draft and it's not 2 losses directly, but it's 2 best of 3 losses. Okay. So it is 2 best of 3 losses, which makes playing traditional draft a lot longer than you normally would think. So I lost 2 games, which means we didn't need to play the 3rd game against either that real world human or that bot, which I'm still not sure. So now I have to win 2 games out of 3 consistently, and we'll just see if that happens. See, do any of these need more than 1 green card? No, so it is fairly safe to just do this. Create an X1 red elemental token with trample and haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Deals twice X damage to target creature or planeswalker. Interesting. So we have a game on Steam here called Welcome to Primrose Lake. It's a cook serve delicious clone, one of these management working someone's job games for $9.99, English only. We see a lot of these, but I never really get the answer whether they are from the same people or if it's just such an easy to clone style game. See, this publisher seems to really have a lot of these cell phone style games. Alright. We need to play this. And then we can put this on the field. Now my spells can't be countered, which is nice. Draw a card and give it +1. Let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that. And then do no attacks. The cook serve delicious style of games on Steam are something that if Steam and Valve were going to be a lot more proactive about curating, I could see an argument made where it's not really a realistic game that like, it's not a AAA game, it's not a AA game, it's a cell phone game that barely would even qualify as a single A game. Plus, it's so repetitive and so clonable and so cloned that there's so many already in existence that I could see Valve making the argument saying we don't need another game like that. Of course, that would be so down the line because you could make the exact same argument for slide puzzles, for Arkanoid clones, for asteroid clones, for platformers that are of low quality. And I genuinely think making the argument about quality is probably a better move than making the argument about styles of specific games. Alright, so we need to get rid of this card. Do we have a way? Like, I could attack next turn with this. Okay. So if I take this, untap it, gain haste. And do I want this card, or do I want a different card? I'll hold on to that card. Let's see. X would be the number of cards you play, so if I just hold on to this further, I think I'm better off. Alright, so attack with this one. And do I want to attack with this one? Because he could block with this one and then kill my guy. So I think I'm best just attacking here, and so it's up to him. Does he want to block and kill one of his creatures, or does he want to allow me to just use his creature to do 4 damage? Yes, I think the quality argument is a better argument than the quantity of certain types of games, because it becomes an arbitrary argument. If 100 years from now there was 100 Portal clones, that would still only be one Portal clone per year. Although in all fairness, Cook Serve Delicious clones come out probably on a monthly basis, so you get at least 12 of them a year, it seems like. Alright. How do we want to play this? Yeah, I can block this, and then when it will die, I can do 2 damage to this guy. And then that'll get rid of one of his characters. And slow down the loss. Okay. Put this on the field. Put this on the field. I can definitely feel that the cards I have are not great. Plus, I don't really understand red decks or green decks that much, so yeah, that it's not super surprising that I'm having trouble here. So I can make a 6, like a 6/1 with haste that could easily be defeated. If I attack here, he could probably block, or he could just let it happen and then we could block here and then that would not really do anything. So there's kind of no reason to attack. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called the Puzzle Box Society, which looks like it's kind of a half effort of a Unity puzzle game. But looking at the exact puzzles, it doesn't seem like it has enough polish. And then looking in the open world sections, it doesn't seem like there's really too much there either. It seems like you're going to walk around a 3D environment to find basically 2D puzzles, which we've seen that happen before. There's $14.99, which is too expensive, and it's English and Korean. Let's see. +1, +0. And has haste. Let's see. That wouldn't help me, that wouldn't help me. Let's see. This doesn't really help me. Honestly, I probably should have put it on this and then I could have blocked and at least killed that, but then that still wouldn't really help me. I would need like a clear shot and every single piece of land I have on the field. Because there really was only about 24 lands. So I would need 18. Right now I have 8. I need another 10 lands. That's highly unlikely to happen. Let's see. Gamatsu has the Sword Art Online Alice Asian Lycross story and gameplay trailer and screenshots. I don't even think this is the most recent season of Sword Art Online. I think they're on to another side story at this point. It takes so long to make a game that I don't think they could ever really catch up. And while I think the Alicization Lycross story was somewhat more enjoyed than some of the other seasons, it's I don't think particularly great. And the whole Sword Art Online, ooh, my screen just decided to flicker black. The whole thing I would say about Sword Art Online is it is really just an excuse to tie in what would have been a basic MMO or JRPG game into what is a kind of basic anime. So it's mostly just cross promotion, and there really isn't a lot there. It's somewhat pretty. Bandai Namco tends to make things somewhat pretty, but they tend not to be amazingly great games. If anything, I wish Bandai Namco was a lot more successful with their anime style, anime spin-off games, because there would be something there to talk about then. Alright, well, can we do this? Do creature or planeswalker. Set the value. Should be 8. I think I can pay. And he just canceled it. Not that that was even going to be a real struggling point. Is there anything I can do with my deck? Like, at all? No, because here's where it really proves I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Is you probably in a draft kind of need 4 out of the 6 colors, or 4 out of 5, or maybe 3 out of 5 of the colors, just so in the second game when you do best out of 3 I could make an entirely different deck and play it. But I don't have the cards for that. No way. So I needed a really good first deck, and that failed miserably. At this rate, we're failing miserably. Let's just sit here for a second. I wanna think here. If we're playing against bots, then the timer should never pop up. So let's just cover a story and see if the timer pops up. That'll tell us. Gamatsu has an article here for PC. Dread Out 2 launches February 20th. Survival horror sequel gets a release date. I guess I've heard of Dread Out 1, but I don't particularly recall. This looks like it actually is one of those Asian survival horror games that's pretty decently animated. It does suffer a little bit from dark screenshot syndrome. And I won't deny that the graphics look like they might be a generation behind as far as the number of polygons. But that looks interesting. Alright, well, the timer did start and I didn't do anything, and then I lost miserably. So, how many cards do we have here? 1, 2, 3. Could we put in the blue, because we do have a decent amount of blue, and then take out something else? Let's try, I suppose. Blue, blue, blue. puts us at 49 cards, which means if we took out the green and just did blue and red, can we do that? Let's see. Land. Where's land? Over here? What does clicking suggest land do? Absolutely nothing. So I guess this is an interesting question. I guess you could play any land you want. Seems like that doesn't get banned. Or it at least seems like that's the case. I don't know. Why am I getting the timer? Let's see. Oh, because I have to hurry. That's why. Green. So did I get any changes done, or did I just run out of time and have to play with my old deck? You know what? I'll draw first. No, I didn't get any changes locked in. Alright, well that's a kick in the balls too. So they don't really give you enough time to make changes. Playing against bots, it seems. Although maybe not. So how do you not feel incredibly demoralized here? Like you're 3 losses straight into a draft where you are going to lose the game directly in this next loss. The one thing that you thought could have saved the day would have been to change up the deck, and I wasn't given enough time to do that. Yeah, that sucks. So unless this guy just plays horribly, and then I survive and win, but then I'd also have to win the next game, so I'm gonna have to move incredibly fast in the next move. Let's see. What are we doing? Exile up to 2 cards from the opponent's graveyard? Alright, well, I don't see a problem for that. And play this. And then it can block with this. It can block, it just can't attack. What does this do next turn? Return target creature lane from your graveyard to your hand. Well, I just randomly clicked something there, but I think that probably was the right move anyways. So I will haste until the end of the turn, but then no attacks because he could just defend with these 2 and defeat me. So I'm trying really hard to play a defense here. Put this on the field. Kind of think this still needs to be on the field. Let's see. Target enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library. Is an enchantment somehow a... This is an enchantment, so I can do that, I suppose. But I don't know if that really helped me. If anything, I more than likely wasted that card. Just doing something in the hopes of being able to do something is not a good way to play, certainly. Seriously? Oh, this is a nightmare. Is there any way? Any way whatsoever to play this and not lose in the next 2 turns? Like, he's got no cards, so if I could get rid of this guy, which clearly, like, put target enchantment on the bottom of the owner's library, way more useful now putting that on the bottom of the library than the other card I put on the bottom of the library was, I guess that's what that's called? Are they called? Are decks libraries? Interesting. Let's put this on the field. And then let's put this on the field. And then just do no attacks. I guess I could do this a couple turns. I think that's pretty much all I've got to do is take this. Let's see. And we'll try and scry. Then we'll attack with this one, and don't know if we want to attack with that one this turn. And I can do that one more turn, but that's not really going to save me. Let's see. We have Schlombat, a new person on the chat, saying tough position there. Yeah, I am in a real tough position. Definitely partially in my own making. Like, I cannot avoid all the blame here. But also, I just kind of don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is literally the first time I've done a traditional draft that's like a best out of 3 game. Let's see. Whenever an enchantment is the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards on your... Can I play this and this? Not really. So, best case scenario, I take this again. This is not a terrible card to take, but it's not going to save me either. I attack with this one. And I'm hoping maybe next turn I can put this on top of this, but then more than likely 3 plus this would be 5, so I've got to block this with this, and I still lose. Like, or I'm very, very close to losing. Like, I can do this, and that'll do 3 damage. But then I need to position this up. And I would need another creature to explore to buffer this guy up any higher. So I can put that there. And probably isn't the wrong move. But I've got to figure out some way to not take 2 damage when he can just attack with everything. And yeah, that's not gonna work. Like, he's got 3 cards. I desperately need to stop rare drafting. That's part of the problem. But also, had I looked at my cards better and built this blue deck, or gotten rid of all the green cards, which were particularly bad, I think. I'm not going to say the red cards were great, but these blue cards were particularly, I mean, these green cards were particularly bad. So had I moved faster and thought about this, I would have taken out all of these cards and then put in all of these cards, and that would have let me get rid of all the forest land, and then added a bunch of blue land, which I was looking at the different styles of blue lands, and instead of just picking the first blue lands. I don't feel like 4 minutes is enough time to rebuild a deck. But yeah, I think this deck would have been a lot more successful had I started with this, and I just didn't really look at it or think about it, and in all honesty, probably not much more successful. Well, we had a free entry because of the mastery level, and we immediately lost. And that would have cost 1,500 gems, so that was a major waste. And we have most of the Theros Beyond Death cards, so none of these I think are new at all. If we look at the collection here, we're either getting the 4th or 3rd copy of things. Most of these cards were added because I was rare drafting, so we did get some new things, certainly, and filled out the collection, but a lot of these cards are not useful. There is a major disconnect that is happening between what the decks I built to try out the new cards to see if any of those new cards should be used, and the amount of cards that I've collected in general from Theros Beyond Death. Because if we look here and just go and see what's not been collected, I imagine we could say, if we were just looking at commons and uncommons, we've gotten all of those and they really haven't helped. So we really are just rares, which seem to be a little too rare, honestly. And I don't know if any of these cards are particularly that great. We can see we have 6, 12, 18, 19, 20 rares that we don't have, where I have 19 rare mythic card, wild cards. So if I just wanted one of each of these, I could probably get it. I'm not sure it's worth doing that though. And then mythic rares, there's fewer of them, but they seem to be still particularly difficult to get. We have here 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 mythic rare cards, planeswalker cards, and captain cards, and some of which are not either of those. So that's something I guess to consider. Now if I look at what I've collected though, you also have a decent amount of rares and wild cards that I only have one copy of, and if I found that they were actually useful, I would probably make more copies of them. Like, this is a type of card that looks like it would be very useful, but I have yet to really find it. Find a home for it. So, yeah, there's not a lot of motivation on that information to keep on trying to play drafts and get more cards. I if anything, I kind of just think I should save up gems for the next mastery of the next expansion, save up gold for the next expansion, and drafts of certain sorts. We'll have to do one draft each month just to get bronze tier in limited rank, but I'm not doing anywhere successful. I'm not being successful at all, so I'm not going to get above bronze tier 4. And then each of these new decks were single color collections of cards, and I've yet to fully decide on anything. If anything, I should look at this green collection and decide if I need this deck anymore, because I did do a modification of Force Might and it actually does seem like it's doing decent. So this one really should be named Force Might 1.2. And so this is the green deck I've been pretty much playing. Some of these other ones need to disappear. Like this one's probably one the favorite, and Out for Blood is one the favorite. This milling deck still doesn't really work. I need to think about blues. I need to think about any new blacks, some more. The green and the black decks in particular, I might just be able to delete these decks because I've done all the experimentation I'm probably going to do. But I need to think about a deck rebuild for white, blue, and red. So right now we need to play black or green spells. So Force Might 1.2 probably wouldn't be a terrible thing. Let's see if we can play some ranked and actually get up in ranked, as I'm struggling to get to gold tier. Let's see. Schlumbat's been talking in the chat. He said a while ago, limited is a tough format to be successful in. I know people are successful, but it's part luck and part skill. He says Nick's Lotus is pretty slow, to be honest. I saved gold for the next expansion and just crack packs. This set I cracked over 90 packs from gold alone. See, and I opened 50, and I think that was more than enough. Honestly, I'm gonna be a little bit more cautious next expansion and have a pack opening video of, I think, just 40, not 40. Yeah, that's where I think I'm gonna go with that. Because after a certain level, it seems like you're not really getting anything new. You're just getting multiples of things that you already have. But I also would argue that as bad as drafts are, and I would say due to special drafts where it's 3 losses and you're out, instead of a traditional draft where it's 2 best out of 3 losses and you're out. I may be screwed here. If I can't draw another land, I very possibly won't be able to go any further. I should have mulliganed a second time. That would have been dangerous. But yeah, he's gonna just have a mana advantage so far ahead of me. But I do like the idea of drafts somewhat. So this is what you want to do, is just take a couple of green lands. Yeah, I feel like drafting just a rare draft, and maybe you'll win. You get another pack at that point, and you maybe win some gems. My main problem is I'm trying to be free to play here, and getting crystals, gems, is almost completely impossible without paying money. So I'm in this weird situation where I'm playing Magic the Gathering Arena until second dinner's card game comes out, which is going to be like a Marvel based card game. So I really only want to be free to play on this. I don't want to spend money. I've already spent some money on this, like in a welcome bundle, but I don't want to every even 3 months have to pay $10 to $20 just to get the mastery things, which the mastery season pass thing, game pass, whatever it's called, whatever you'd call it, is mostly skins, and skins are effectively worthless. And Magic has always been greedy. Well, before it was a digital, they had a digital version, but they are certainly going over and over again, adding more and more ways to try and get milk Magic players, when really I feel like if Magic Arena were to really succeed, it should open itself up to a new type of player, not the old generation of Magic players who spend potentially 8 to 12 hours a day playing Magic and spend... Well, I had somebody that wanted to get in Magic and they wanted to spend at most $200 a month, and I was jaw-dropping. Like, my jaw dropped at that. It's like, $200 a month? Seriously? Like, I wouldn't spend $20 a month. Let's see. What does this do? Fights a creature. You don't. And it's indestructible. Well, I don't think that's the card to play right now. Let's see. I think you do Gift of Paradise, and then that gets me back to the mana. I'm having to catch up to have as much mana as this guy does. Okay, this now would add 2 mana, which lets me play this. Let's see, Schlumbat says, I know it's not efficient, but it's quick and I don't have to mess with drafts. And then he says, so I put money into the game, but that's for me to get all the cards and build content. I'm a content creator with Wizards of the Coast. Which I assume that's what WotC means. Well, I would then argue a very, very valid question. If you are truly connected to Wizards of the Coast, why aren't they giving you all the cards for free? Why? Like, that's a bigger question as far as some of the older cards in particular in digital format. Like, once something comes out of standard play, there should be a very easy path for new players to get the old expansions in complete collections for free, so that you can just feel like you have a lot of cards even if you really don't from day one. Like, it really doesn't hurt Wizards of the Coast's bottom line to give old cards that have already been banned, and I'm talking about things that would be outside of Pioneer and outside of Historic, but even some things inside of Historic and Pioneer would be nice. But yeah, if you're really a content creator, why aren't they giving you the cards? Let's see. He says, they gave me 30 packs in each set in standard and 10,000 gems. Alright. I think that is probably another example of them being more greedy than is good for them. Though they should have given you everything, honestly. If you're making content, you'll get them a lot more sales and a lot more money through exciting your viewers to buy packs than it costs them to give you digital copies of everything. And I'm fairly certain I've seen them give complete collections to other people, or at least given access to accounts that have everything for brief times. Moving on, we have an article here from TechRaptor. Stone Shard is promising, but too brutal for its own good. I believe this is another... No, it's not a collectible card game. I thought it was, but I guess it just sounds too much like Hearthstone. But it honestly looks like it kind of has a Diablo menu bar, but then is more of a roguelike top-down game than Diablo ever was. Diablo had a lot more clicking and mouse controls that was kind of groundbreaking when it first came out, Diablo 1. Whereas before, things were mostly controlled by keyboard and top-down perspectives. Yeah. Let's see. Shlombat said, yeah, so I do get that access as well. It's an early access part of being a content creator, but the account is only accessible for a short period of time. Oh, is that how it works? Yep. Well, I can tell you, after playing Hearthstone for nearly 5 years, I don't think I'd want to commit solely to any one collectible card game to the level that I think anybody would sponsor me. Plus, I don't have enough viewers on my YouTube channel and enough subscribers. But there's certainly... Let's just do this. I'm gonna kill one of these guys. because when I play the collectible card games, I'm using it as something that I can definitely not pay 100% attention to, so that I can talk about video game news and talk about the games that have come out on Steam and things like that. So I can pop over here and show off things. And in comparison to Hearthstone, Magic is a little bit more difficult, unfortunately, to do that. You do have to pay a little bit more attention. Hearthstone's a little bit easier to understand. I think knowing that Magic the Gathering was like the original, there's some things that could be improved as a new gameplay style. Like, personally, I think if they took all the land out and made a second deck that was 15 cards of just land, and every turn you turned one land into the fields, and that then would be like a 35 card deck minimum of actual cards that you draw at least one spell, creature, enchantment, whatever. Anything that's a non-land, you get at least one of those each turn. That way, that eliminates a lot of the mana screwing and the mana locking problem that happens a lot of times. There's something that could be retroactively added to digital that's a lot easier than could be added to playing paper Magic, in the fact that every other game I've ever seen in collectible cardness, you don't have toughness as far as a metric of the character. Instead, you have health. Or even if you were going to use a Yu-Gi-Oh conceit of having characters in defense position and dying a lot of times just because they are in defense position, face down, things like that, I think would be helpful because the toughness causes a lot of slowdown from what I can tell. You can easily have one character on the field that is just super tough, and he can block 5, 10, 20 lower attack creatures on the field, and it just becomes a real slow down experience. And Magic is slower than Hearthstone, and I felt like Hearthstone was too slow. Well, this will be interesting. Let's see if we can attack and see which one he'll block with. And then we'll see how many of these we can play. Well, I guess I don't have to play any more, do I? So we'll just put one here. I thought that the core sets, which I would argue Magic puts out way too many sets per year and asks way too much. I would argue at most 3 releases per year, probably 2. Or you could do 3, but 1 should be a core set. But my understanding of core sets was that they were supposed to be reprints of good cards that aren't going to really ruin the meta game and the balance. So they can just always be in Magic and people can be familiar with it. For instance, like a 2/2 bear, every core set should probably have a 2/2 bear type card in every color that exists. That's just like a basic card that isn't going to ruin the game to always exist, and you can just change the art a little bit. You don't even really have to change the art, you just put it in a core set. And I would assume, and I'm not even sure if in official Magic games you're allowed to do this, I would assume it should be a case that you should be able to play a core set from any year in standard and it still be okay because those cards had already been vetted. They should be the opposite of like a highly overpowered card like Oko, which they had to ban fairly quickly. And I think, from what I hear, that's what core sets used to be, but it's not really what they are now. Maybe that was more of an opinion. In general, I feel like Magic Arena should just be cheaper. Like, it really should be, to bring in a new generation of players, little kids. Instead, it seems like it is just a slightly more polished version of Magic Online for people that just want to play more Magic on a daily basis than their local friends and co-players would be willing to play. But yeah, let's see. Looking back on the chat, Slom, I want to call him Shlomo Bat, but I guess it's Shalom Bat. I guess it's like a wombat reference more than anything else. I'm just gonna attack with everything. I think I can do that. It says, he says, typically they grant content creators early access to a new set before generals get access. And then he said later, taking into consideration the age of Magic compared to other games, the game hasn't changed much over these years. Yeah, that's the thing, is it hasn't changed much. And yet it kind of has in the different styles of gameplay. Because I did play Magic during Ice Age, and there were no planeswalkers. It would be an interesting idea if they tried to make planeswalker versions of every single card, because then that eliminates the toughness problem. When I was playing, there were no... well, there was a lot of key phrases, a lot of gameplay mechanics that didn't exist. The art certainly was a lot more simplistic and not as good looking. But there were no commander cards when I was playing in Ice Age, as far as I recall. So there have been changes, but the core mechanics have stayed mostly the same. You still get mana through land, where most other games try to get away from that because it's too random, and you, I think, had 60 to 80 cards. Magic back in the day was straight up gambling. You in the rules it said you put one random card from your deck up as a prize based on who won. They've changed that part, so they have made changes. I just think that they haven't probably made enough changes, and need to look towards the future and the next generation and realize that when people were playing Alpha and when people were playing Ice Age, we didn't have the internet, and we didn't have Netflix, and we didn't have other things to take up our time. So spending 4 to 8 hours on a Friday playing Friday Night Magic made a lot more sense. Same is true for Dungeons and Dragons. There needs to be some way. I don't know why it's telling me there's something new at the store. To accelerate the experience for the next generation, who, for lack of a better description, are a little ADD, ADHD, and do want to not have that same experience where it's really, really slow. Yeah, and the same is true for like most games. Like, if you went back and played most NES games, or even worse, if you went back and played an Atari or ColecoVision game, it would be incredibly slow, incredibly simplistic, incredibly boring. Look at Mario, Super Mario Brothers. No, if you look at like Mario Brothers, the arcade game before Super Mario Brothers, that was super simplistic. Or Donkey Kong, the arcade game, super simplistic. And if you look at Mario Odyssey now, it's like way faster, way easier, way less time to reach any specific goal. Games kind of need to be dumbed down. People don't like to admit that, but it's the way people like it. I love a dumbed down experience where I don't have to really work that hard in most games. Like, I almost never turn a game on its hardest difficulty. Because I like the win ratio. And when you look at collectible card games win ratios compared to other video games, it's always an atrocious percentage, because you're normally in Magic Arena, unless you're playing against a bot, you're normally playing against a human being, so they're trying to balance the game for a 50% win ratio. Whereas if you're playing a single player story based game, first person shooter or whatever, you kind of have a 90, maybe 100% win ratio. Like, if you get shot, a lot of times you don't die. If you die, you respawn at a checkpoint. Those tiny little failures are so easily overlooked that most people won't even realize them as a loss. Whereas if you lose in Magic, you know you lost, because it's very final, no way to undo it, and you really can't get around that too much. But it definitely isn't amazingly great feeling. That was in part of the reason why I burned out quite a bit on Hearthstone. Is just you get into these lose scenarios where 3-4 hours of gameplay and maybe you've won one game, and then in Hearthstone's case and Magic's case, every game is particularly long. You're playing 20 to 40 minutes a game if it goes long, so that's a lot of time invested. Let's see. If I played this when I was and blocked this, I think that would work. As long as he doesn't play something to buff this character up, which he very well might. Let's see. Alright, moving on with the video game news. Let's see. Is this one adult content, or is it somewhat YouTube family friendly? Well, I would guess what this is it's a stealing of the Toho characters and other anime characters from different games. Let's just solve all that. So we have this game, Cyrano's Perfect Summer Vacation, and then if you look here, you have an animation style that doesn't quite match this animation style, that really doesn't match that animation style. It seems like they're just randomly cut and paste on top here. Again, not really matching. This is labeled as a visual novel, but it's free to play, and it's single player, and it's English and Spanish, so this looks pretty bad quality. I'm about to run out of time. Oh, they killed my guy. Alright, well, I'm doomed now. Doomed, I say. this on the field, and then this probably would have been better to have been on the field anyways. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here, Through the Darkest of Times review. Let's see what they have to say about it. Looks like it's kind of a strategy game with a kind of unique thing. Apparently it's set in World War II. It's playing as Jewish people during Hitler. Let's see. It says, Through the Darkest Time takes place back in 1933 as Hitler starts to rule over Germany. Your underground resistance group is everything you have to fight against them. Once you can accept the occasional glitch submission and language mistake, it's a journey down history that you will never forget. 7.5. This seems like it might be selling itself on some controversy, and I guess there's a question to be had as far as, do you really want to play a game where, while there were many resistance cells during World War II, none of them had an overwhelming success that turned the tide of war? There's like no great story there that I know of. And people certainly would have loved to talk about an underdog story if that was the case. The many resistance cells almost certainly did severely hamper the success of Nazi Germany, but it was each individual cell doing some small part. The game's pros are that it has a gripping story, a unique art style, and historically accurate in the tiniest of details. Cons are repetitive activities and wording and spelling mistakes. It is also certainly a dark subject matter, so I'm not sure how many people want to have that form of edutainment thrust upon them. But yeah, I'd consider it. Probably not put it on the wish list at a 7.5. That's an average game. Okay. In a weird way, YouTube does not even like to promote historical based things anyways, particularly when you're talking World War II, because there's so many people putting out fake history and fake stories on YouTube about World War II. So it probably wouldn't be too good as a YouTuber to cover a game like that. Right, so this guy, he's, I think, figured it out that he shouldn't attack. Or he's just waiting. Right. It could attack, but then he could defend with multiple characters too. So I need to clear off the thing. It's kind of a weird balance between the combination and the number of creatures you have versus the amount of toughness and attack you have, or power. Next we have a game on Steam called Fishing Simulator Aquarium Manager. It doesn't look visually polished enough. I've seen a couple of these games before. They seem to be not super interesting. Now I do know that it's kind of a mess to run an aquarium, and not much feedback compared to having a cat or a dog. So I could see why somebody would want a digital version of that, but I'd almost want just a screensaver of an aquarium, not an actual game where you have to interact with it. This is $8.89 discounted with a bunch of languages support and alleged full audio, which I have no idea what full audio would even mean when you're talking about an aquarium. You're gonna hear the fish make splashing sounds, fish, or are the fish going to actually talk in a language? Okay. I'm potentially doomed here. He's having to play a lot of cards, but he's also getting a lot of cards. So he's able to succeed at that. It's a little surprising you can get so many cards as a green player. That feels like that would be something that a blue player could do. So there probably is a decent green-blue combo deck that could be made using Season of Growth. Next we have a game on Steam called Generation Streets, which looks like it's probably an asset flip city sim game. They're calling it an open world game. It's free to play, single player, English and Russian. Ooh, probably a low effort Russian game. Oh, it's not a city sim. You run around as a tank shooting things. Let's see. Well, this now has vigilance and trample. But can I do anything with any of that? See, now would be the time for him to attack because I failed to hold back enough mana to play Growth Cycle. But he probably can just cast some spell and do some strategy that I'm not even starting to think about. Game of Sutra has an article here. Atari acquires Wonder assets to expand its capabilities of VCS console. Now it's always important to mention that Atari is just a holding company that bought the name Atari, and they're like trying to make hotels or something last I heard. I don't know what VCS console is. Wonder OS is an Android-based hybrid mobile entertainment platform that was designed to unify mobile console and PC titles locally through the cloud. Haven't heard of it. They're going to incorporate that into the Atari VCS throwback console, which is like, I guess, a Nintendo Mini except for Atari games, of which I don't think many people really want to play Atari games, old Atari games. So yeah, I don't think Atari really has much relevancy, if any, in the video game world. Just because they have a name of a company that made video games in the 70s does not directly translate to them actually knowing how to make modern games or do anything of interest. And it's not like Atari even has any IPs, tentpole properties, or licenses of any real note at all. Like the most recognizable Atari game that I'm not sure was even made by Atari would be the E.T. game. They might own something like Galaga or Centipede or something like that, but I wouldn't be certain about that in either. Moving on, we have a Game of Sutra article here. Sony's 2019 acquisition of Insomniac Games cost them $229 million. Insomniac Games making the Spider-Man game at the time. which in comparison, there was another story that said that was actually a bit of a deal compared to what they spent to purchase a different company. So, although I guess there was possibly a bit of a risk that Insomniac Games wasn't going to be able to put out a game as good as the Spider-Man game, because yeah, there really wasn't a guarantee there. It's not like previous Spider-Man games have all been excellent, or previous Insomniac games of the recent years in their history have been excellent. This guy's gonna run out of cards if he's not too careful. But you kind of have to assume that if you're gonna play 3 Seasons of Growth, you have some strategy here that is more than just drawing cards. These guys are getting powerful enough that they are able to defeat me, probably. Vigilance and trample. What I wish I had was, there's a pig or a boar card that says everybody that can block must block. If I could put that on the field right now and then make every single character block him, that would be nice. So, okay, let's do this. He's deciding whether he wants to attack or not. Or the game is just having network troubles. Let's see. Well, geez, is this gonna work well enough? Yes, it is. Barely worked well enough. Assuming he doesn't have some other card. See. Next we have a game on Steam called Zombie Apocalypse Survivor, which looks like it's pretty much just a low effort zombie game. Tower defense, for lack of a better description. Seems like it's trying to be something more than Plants vs. Zombies with this overlay and such, but it's not really getting there. It's way overpriced at $19.99, English only. Here we go. Let's see what this Planeswalker can do.
Civilization has crept too far. Tear it down.
Let's see. 2 1/1 tokens. Target creature deals damage equal to its power to creature or Planeswalker. So what if we were to do this? Let's get rid of that guy.
Watch out. They bite.
Think I'm probably somewhat safe now, but not super safe. He's not going to run out of cards. He's got way more people on the field. He's got way more cards in his hands. He's got an advantage in every way. More land, more everything. I can play this every time. Like, I can put a 1/1 counter on this guy every time and buff him up. But it'll take several times before he could actually block this, like 2 turns. Meanwhile, these other guys could get buffed up in many different ways. Let's see. Moving on, Gematsu has an article here for the PC, PS4, and Switch. Operincia, The Stolen Sun, is coming on March 31st. It's currently available for the Xbox One and PC via the Epic Games Store. I have not heard anything about this game. It looks like it might be a slightly well animated underwater based dungeon crawler. Zin Studios, as in Zin Pinball, made it. Interesting. Let's see what this trailer looks like. It is kind of like a dungeon crawler. Maybe not all of it's underwater. A lot of it's not being highlighted because, yeah, if you're gonna sell dungeon crawler, people aren't gonna be super interested in it. Yeah, it looks like it's an RPG of some sort. From the creators of Zen Pinball, I think. Let's go over to its Steam page and see how that works. Yeah. Yeah. Zen Studios, makers of Pinball FX3 and their many bits of DLC. And I guess they made a game called Castle Storm.
My, how you've grown.
corpse will volunteer. What a good, mindless minion. I do love a good death wail. Death. I've learned much from your death. Good help is easy to find in war.
How about now? Oh my goodness. Something about my cord or connector or my speaker has just gotten really, really bad. It couldn't possibly have cut out that long ago. I mean, it couldn't, because I was talking to somebody on the chat before. I'm not standing on any cords or anything. So, some of it I think has to do with Windows. I want to blame Windows 10 on it, certainly, because there is something where it is just like changing the audio. But like, and what I did just to fix it by unplugging the microphone and plugging back in, I'm surprised that worked. But yeah, I've had to reboot my software every time to make sure the audio works. It does seem like it's just going out like crazy. I would hate to have to buy a new microphone because it's like being a YouTuber really hasn't paid for the first microphone. Maybe I got something here. Maybe there's a way to win here. Doubt it. There you go. Try that. Exile target from the graveyard. There we go. So that would be this. I guess I could have been doing that earlier. Alright. I play this. I could do this, I guess. Yeah, but nothing's gonna save that. Alright, let's see. Well, let's just go ahead and move forward, I guess, with the video. Apologies. Joe says, after this game I need to jet. Okay, well, thanks for popping into the chat and telling me about the audio issue. I'll have to look at the footage and see how long I was speaking into the void. Let's see. Well, the other deck I was going to test out was this one to see if we're ready to delete that deck. Yep. Josh says, have a good day, mate. I may be back in a few. Cheerio. Alright, thanks for popping by. Game of Sutra has an article here. The New Zealand game industry has doubled its annual revenue in 2 years. I'm still not really feeling like New Zealand is going to be a major player in the video game world yet. I'd like to see a list of New Zealand companies or New Zealand games, because that would be way more helpful. Because if New Zealand has just made a bunch of like mobile games with microtransactions and that's how they doubled their money, well, that's not very impressive. If New Zealand has had their hands in developing like major AAA games and I just don't recognize it, that's a lot better information as a consumer to know. Gamatsu has an article here. Limited Run Games is going to have its E3 2020 press conference on June 8th. This might be the first time Limited Run Games has had a presentation. I don't think so, though. I think this is probably the second or third year. Yeah, and they say the physical games distributor returns for another year, so it's the second year. Limited Run Games is doing a decent job of taking very small small indie games that most publishers wouldn't bother to publish in physical forms, and then doing as their name says, making a very limited run for people that still want a physical copy of those games, most of which they publish are available digitally, and more than likely most people would purchase digitally anyways. If anything, it probably is a good indication that the minimums that exist these days to make a physical version of a game and sell it inside of stores need to be lowered. I would imagine the same is true for like DVDs. Like I could see easily printing only 1,000 copies of some DVDs and having them float around Walmarts and maybe Best Buys. What does this card do? This deals 1 damage to the player whenever he draws a card. I should have played that. Gamatsu has an article here. Real-time tactics game Dog Duty is coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch this spring. Which sounds like a funny name. But what kind of game is it? It looks to me like it's mostly a top-down twin-stick shooter game, kind of like a Contra game with a slightly different perspective on it. Probably not going to be a great game, but might be interesting. The PC version is in early access on Steam. Played that. And let's go ahead and play this. And then end our turn. Let's see. Gamatsu has the Famitsu sales for this week. Let's see if I can scroll through this. You have Grand Blue Fantasy Versus available for the PS4, new this week, and it immediately shot to the top of the sales list, which makes sense with 86,000 units, considering how everything else for the past 3 or 4 weeks have been just Nintendo things that are pretty old. Ring Fit Adventure, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Yakuza Like a Dragon, I think, well, it's been out for a little while, a week or two. See, Minecraft Switch Edition, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So they're up to 3 PlayStation games on the list now out of 10. And then let's see. This seems rankings 11 from 30 don't have numbers, but there are some other PlayStation games. 13 Sentinels, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, 14. But yeah, if you look at the top 30, it still is very, very heavily in the factor for Nintendo games. PlayStation 4 not doing well this month. Hardware sales, the Switch and Switch Lite still dominating, with the PlayStation 4 far, far behind it. Like you're getting 90,000 sales between the Switch and Switch Lite last week, where you barely got 6,000 sales between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. And that is the narrative to take from this, certainly, is that in its native land, the Japanese company Nintendo versus the Japanese company Sony, man, did I lose my ability? Darn it. Sony is not succeeding. Right. If I play this, I think I'll be able to play that. Honestly, I don't think I'll be able to do anything here anyways. It's one ability removal. That was my only defense. And so as soon as I lost that, I basically lost the game. And the Xbox One and Xbox One X, not even selling 100 units. Nintendo also still selling the 2DS LL and the 2DS and the 3DS LL. The new 2DS LL and the new 3DS LL. So Nintendo's still making some sales on their exclusively mobile platforms. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a Job. Double Fine Productions is hiring a gameplay programmer, which you would think in their current state developing Psychonauts 2, they would have already had that. They're looking for somebody to help them build a game in Unreal Engine 4, and I can't help but assume that this is Psychonauts 2. Which does not sound good, frankly. It doesn't sound like they're in a good position. They should be a lot closer to being done with that game, if not completely done with Psychonauts 2. Alright, well, Citadel going to be completely useless. Let's see. I can't play this because I'll die, so I might as well just play it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a deep dive. Like, this is clearly not something that's gonna fix itself. I'm gonna have to do a deep dive and figure out what's going on with my microphone, that it's losing connections all of a sudden. Either my microphone is totally burning out, which would suck, or Windows 10 has put some new driver or something that totally doesn't work. I know Windows 10 certainly has decided to become this man in the middle as far as the microphone, which kind of makes sense. They want you to know when the microphone is actually listening and not have somebody turn on potentially a webcam and a microphone and spy on people. But that has to work with no interference and no flaws, and that doesn't seem like that's the case. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Humble Bundle has rolled out region pricing for a handful of currencies. Might be good, might be bad. Any region without a supported currency defaults to US dollars. I don't know if that's going to really change things too much, as long as the conversion rate is right, but that certainly is part of what causes a lot of the weirdness on Steam, is that some countries' conversion rates are not the official government conversion rates or the official bank's conversion rates, but are sometimes incredibly different. Like, I know if you're trying to buy something in Australia, you tend to pay a lot more than what the conversion rate would be.
Our fiends thirst for life.
So, yeah, there's definitely some weirdness that happens when you start having to convert different currencies, but it is something you kind of have to deal with, just the cost of doing business in the global market. Let's see. I want to sacrifice this guy. I want to attack with this guy.
You cannot hurt my hollow soul. Sired many warriors.
I'm running out of breath. So in this case, it's not the microphone messing up, it's just I've run out of breath there for a second. Yeah, I want to kind of wrap up, and we're kind of nowhere close to wrapping up. So, yeah, my back still has not healed completely, and we've been going for nearly 2 hours, or 3 hours. So we have a game on Steam here called The Adventures of Zero Dilly, which seems like it's a Crash Test Dummies game without the license of the Crash Test Dummies cartoon, which is probably a license you don't really need. It's $9.99, a bunch of languages. I'm going to put it on the follow list. This could be like a mobile game ported, this could be a low effort asset flip game. Or there might actually be something of interest here. I'm not 100% sure that these games where you're trying to just hurt the character that you're playing as, whether they are a real character or not, or a real human or not, I'm not sure any of those ever actually succeeded or were actually fun. Looking at the trailer though, I did notice it said there was only 12 levels, and this is selling for $9.99. It says master 12 incredibly difficult levels, and yeah, I think that's not something I would want to pay that much for. And then there's another red flag that I've just recognized that makes it feel like they're not really going to take the game seriously. I guess I could have attacked over here. Like here they have this GIF of crashing through the billboard, and then they spin the camera around, and the target on the back of the billboard is directly aligned with the zipper of the jeans. So yeah, that's kind of crass. I think we could probably skip this. Too expensive, only 12 levels. They just priced themselves out of it. Alright, I'm gonna try and skip the games that we have left, and we're just potentially on Friday gonna have a ton of games left over, and maybe I'll curate some of that. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Payday is front and center as Starbreeze closes out its reconstruction-filled 2019. So yeah, they're saying that they're gonna focus on Payday, which I feel like they said the exact opposite last year, is that they were gonna put the pause on the development of Payday. And I've lost. Starbreeze with the exception of trying to be a publisher and then not particularly doing anything amazing as a publisher so far that I recall, Starbreeze seems like they are just going in circles with Payday. That's like the one game that succeeded for them, so it's the one game that they have to just keep on attempting to milk, and it's just not working. In a funny way, I kind of feel like Half-Life worked that way and Counter-Strike Go worked that way relatively well for Valve, and then that made this false narrative that that would work for anybody else, and it seems like it's never really worked for anybody else. Although I guess, yeah, you have things like Resident Evil series where as long as they make new content in the series, it works. But Valve pretty much is still making the same amount of money from the Counter-Strike Go and Half-Life series without making anything new. And in all honesty, if Valve didn't own Steam, that they would have been bankrupt and out of money years ago. Yeah. Let's see. Scry 3 at the beginning of your first upkeep. Interesting. So that means I can just get rid of that. And I can get rid of that. And then that means I can put this on the field, although I probably should have played that, actually, since that would have been a smarter move. But these ones that enter the field tapped should be on the field first. -2, -0. Says flash and flying. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here for Yagdra Union Never Fight Alone, coming to the Switch on March 5th in Japan. Looks like it is a massive army strategy game. It's got just that one screenshot. Wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't make it to the West, or it just shows up as a eShop Switch game. It came out in April of 2019 for the iOS and Android, and it's not a game I recognize, so I imagine it probably didn't come out in the West for the iOS and Android either. Okay. Right, does this has pacifism on it, so I can't really do this. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting, I don't know if sleepy is the right word, or just exhausted. I'm just getting quiet, certainly. Gamatsu has the Famitsu review scores. Daymare 1988, not good. I think we already covered these, actually. Let's see if there's anything here of big importance to mention. Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers for PS4 and Switch got a near perfect score at 36 out of 40, and Famitsu is only given 5 or 6 perfect scores. Red Bow, I haven't even heard of. The Under Night and Birth EX Late CLR fighting game. Got 32 out of 40. I think that's pretty much all that needs to be mentioned there. Let's see. This. And this. Do I want to lose one life in a mass? Not as long as this has pacifism on it, so can attack with this. Does this have flying? Doesn't seem like it does. Open Critic has an article here. Pokemon Home is officially launched. I'll pretty much leave it at that. We've already talked about how Pokemon Home does not seem like it's a particularly great offering and feels like something that should have been free. Open Critic has another article. Borderlands 3 is getting a level cap increase, which is a little surprising. Later this week, it's a little surprising because that means you are going to have a level cap increase from level 50 to 53 before it comes out on Steam, which is something I would imagine wouldn't happen. Right now they're doing the Broken Hearts Day event beginning February 13th, 3 p.m. and ending February 20th, 8:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And with that event, they're giving out items that you would have thought you would have gotten with just a shift code in previous Borderlands games. Gamatsu has an article here for a game called Adventure Game Seiri. The beginning has a teaser trailer. It looks kind of Pokemon-esque in the characters with a slightly different art style. There's 3 of them. Let's see what this teaser trailer shows us. A lot of mushrooms, an energy fox-like creature, for lack of a better term. So I don't know if it's just 3 friends working together or if there are going to be a lot more creatures. Let's see. Let's see for the explanation. Right, do I need more mana? Probably not. Yeah, it seems like it might be a 3D platforming puzzle game, although maybe not with platforming. 3D puzzle adventure game. Not a... Let's see. Draw 2 cards. It's probably my best bet. There's nothing I can do. I've got all these cards all around amassing a zombie, but as long as the zombie is here and can't attack and can't block, amassing and improving on it doesn't do anything. Ooh, that might work. Hexproof. Does hexproof let me attack or block? No. From the looks of it, it seems like hexproof only would affect things after the fact, not retroactively. Gamatsu has an article here. The Division 2 expansion Warlocks of New York has been announced. I'm a little surprised that the Division 2 is still trying to do anything. It really came out with no excitement whatsoever. And I guess the expansion was probably already in the works, so it's probably not super surprising. Right, so this is ridiculous, but we gotta do this. So then I can do this. And if he's got another pacifism to play, that's gonna just ruin everything. Although I don't think it matters because now I have hexproof. Game Center has an article here. Big Ben Interactive is now Nacon as publishing and accessory businesses merge. We don't need that. I feel like I recognize Big Ben Interactive, but I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. I would guess that they put out some kind of British point-and-click adventure game. Or they did a bunch of mobile games. TechRaptor has a follow-up from that article. Insomniac Games cost Sony less than Star Citizen did. So, let's see if they have the real numbers here. Let's see, $229 million roughly for Insomniac Games. Let's see, but Star Citizens collected $267 million for Star Citizen. Which I think the comparison is a little false there because it's not really saying that Sony bought Star Citizen. Now, Star Citizen, I believe, is a PC game too. I don't even know if it is on the PlayStation. It's just saying that the people who have funded Star Citizen, which, let's face it, Star Citizen's probably been very overfunded, have funded it more than what Sony paid for Insomniac Games. Which, I don't know, I feel like $229 million is probably close to right. Do I have any creatures in my graveyard? Nope. Let's do this. Like, my only real hope here is that I somehow just amass something so powerful and so many creatures that I could attack and do 35 damage per turn in one turn. And the odds of that actually happening are probably extremely low. Also, I need to draw cards more and just try to play every card I can. TechRaptor has an article here. Chaos Code Next canceled as developer halts works on new projects. So this is a different fighting game from a different company, FK Digital, not to be confused with Exacom, I believe, was the other company that said they were shutting down. So the thing I would take from this is it seems to me like Evo and fighting games are not doing particularly well this year, and so a lot of fighting game companies that have probably not been doing particularly well anyways now are struggling. I can't afford. And, you know, some narrowing of the large amount of fighting games probably is not undue, as I imagine Smash Bros. Ultimate sucked a lot of the wind out of a lot of the enthusiasm for a lot of the other games. Okay, so we have a 12 here. The easiest thing to do would be to just block it there. So he may be counting where I'm not really counting. And I guess if somebody else is counting and I'm not, it wouldn't be surprising if just drawing as many cards as possible. Like, I could send back one of these, but that won't be enough to stop everybody. And I'm gonna run out of cards way before he does. And sending back a card to his hand is not gonna do too much. Ideally, I should send that one back. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Visual Studio's Unity analyzers are now open source. Interesting, but I'm not 100% sure that people use Visual Studio in particular for Unity. A decent amount of people, I imagine, do, but I wouldn't be 100% certain on that. Right, so if we send that back, that kind of devastates that. And play one of these. And we have one character that we could have brought back. Brave. But you just can't attack. This is just that same problem. You just get into these stalemates of I can't really attack because I can't really run the numbers amongst this many people to see if my attacks between the flying people and the land people could defeat his attacks between the non-flying land people. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Clash of Clans maker Supercell is going to significantly cut back on hiring. Supercell doesn't seem like it's been doing particularly well over the past year with their Clash of Clans Rush game, whatever that was called, not being super successful. I was playing Clash Royale for a very long time until I finally just found the game I'm playing now, Destiny Child, which it plays itself and is a lot easier and takes a lot less time. Although Destiny Child does take a lot of time, you can just let the game run in the background without having to actually interact with it. Draw a card. And here we've got somebody with flying, death touch, and and apparently we don't have enough mana. 29 more cards. She put this on here. Non-creature spells cost 2 more until the next turn. TechRaptor has an article here. Tencent's Jaeger investment will strengthen the company's development. Speaking of Chinese companies, this isn't very video game related, but allegedly Huawei Communications does have a backdoor to all like cell phone technology that they were selling and installing, which was the accusation thrown against them many times and dismissed a lot of times also as not being proven. So I guess it was very possibly just a matter of time until it was actually proven. Yeah, well, we don't need this. A zombie token with flying now all of a sudden would be something I might be able to do, because he only has a small number of flying things, so 2 plus 6 would be 8, 12, so if I can get this to like 13 and then start attacking with just a zombie, that might work. And if he decides to attack with anything, I've got this flying death touch creature. Yeah, I don't know Jaeger as a company though. It was the developer of a game called The Cycle, which I don't recognize. I don't recognize that game either. Well, it is around that time for Valentine's Day, and as such, Nutaku, the lewd adult video game company that is owned by the parent company of, yeah, let's go ahead and play this. It's owned by the parent company of Pornhub. They have a new game. Let me just make sure that the screenshots on TechRaptor are YouTube family friendly. So TechRaptor has this article, Nutaku's Ninja Maiden sends sexy shinobi into battle. And here you've got some blurred out imagery. And here you've got kind of a screenshot of what it really looks like. Looks very much like a mobile game, looks very simplistic. And that's probably about it. It says it has 30 lewd scenes. You can play it for free on PC and Android right now. Also, they are having a Valentine's Day sale, which we'll get to in a second, I suppose. For, I guess, the loneliest of people out there that have nothing better to do than play adult games on Valentine's Day. I say we attack with this one, and then we not attack with anything else. Yeah. One attack here should be fine. If I got rid of this guy, probably be useful. What is giving life? This is, so this needs to go. I've got 10 turns until I run out of life, by the way. Because nothing's gonna stop that. So get rid of this. And then put this on the field. Now this has a menace, and it would have to be defeated by 2 people. Oh, and this guy has like 22. Let's see. So I can't be defeated by this, then. He does not have enough block. And this guy's gonna have lifelink. So either he blocks with a lot of things, or I just get a bunch of health. And will that give me 22 health or 44 health? Because I have menace. It's an interesting question. No, it just gave me 22 health. But that's fine. I've got plenty here. And this guy can buff up all he wants. It's not going to really save him. Because in the next turn I can just attack again. And we've got plenty of game, plenty of cards still. So I did win there, but that took forever. And we can definitely see that they want you to have 10 victories, probably 15 victories every day, and that's just not going to happen. We got a core set 2020, which I think I kind of have most of these cards already.
Not to brag, but I'm totally the best pyromancy student.
Yeah, this is one of the things about the core sets in particular. Is core sets should probably be mostly planeswalkers if they want planeswalkers to maintain their relevancy, because the number of planeswalkers you get in any expansion is maybe 4 or 5, and they might be good, they might be bad, but if you lose too many in any round of moving cards out of standard, that's going to be potentially the end of planeswalkers. And I don't think a concept as big as planeswalkers can be eliminated. If anything, like I said, I think it would be a smarter move to move planeswalkers as the default and have all characters act like planeswalkers. Alright, let's just cover the last bits of news, and then I'm going to just have a ton of games on Friday. Gamasutra has an article here. Game development agency Amber opens up a studio in Mexico. Guadalajara, Mexico. I don't know if you can do business in Mexico. I wish you could, but it's just so dangerous, and because of the drug cartels and the violence, and a lot of that is definitely the United States' fault, but it's the way things are. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. It's a review for Kentucky Route Zero, which I've heard some hype about this game, and I kind of feel like if this game had come out in a very short period instead of being stretched out over the course of what felt like 2 or 3 years, I might have gotten hyped up about it enough to want to play it. But just looking at the screenshots, I don't think so. Every time I look at it, it's like, no, this doesn't look that good. And TechRaptor seems to agree. They say Kentucky Route Zero has some interesting scenes and great moments, but it never really clicks in the way that I was hoping for it. Pro's fantastic setting, and it hates capitalism. I guess that's a default pro for TechRaptor. Lovely graphics and audio, interesting experimental interludes. There's a better way to phrase this to not sound biased, like a heartfelt opinions, or heartfelt economic stance. Cons are characters don't feel fleshed out enough, the story just sort of stops, and it drops best gameplay ideas halfway through. So, alright. Let's see, skip over. Bethesda, for better or worse, is having a Games Day in Boston on February 11th, seemingly trying to avoid having a E3 presence, or as big of an E3 presence as maybe an experiment. Bethesda has some things to show off, but not a lot, because Fallout 76 is kind of still hanging over their heads. Doom Immortal is hanging over their heads as the mobile game. Doom Eternal is going to come out and probably be their only success of the year. So there's not a lot good to say about Bethesda. The Elder Scrolls game is not going to get anything more than a tease at E3, I'm sure. And their Starlink, I think is the name of it, space game, probably not going to get any big reveal either, even though it definitely should be revealed and get an announcement date at minimum. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. A tactical deck builder game called Floppy Knights has been announced for PC. It's supposedly Advance Wars cross Slay Spire. Looks kind of kid friendly. Might be interesting. Let's see what the video teaser shows. Cards with some basic things, and you play the cards to place characters. I don't know if I really like that idea. Like, it seems like you're overcomplicating something that is supposed to be simplified when you're playing a collectible card game. Like, the whole point of a collectible card game, in part, is to simplify the experience, to have something that you can carry with you, where you can just carry a deck of cards and take it to a friend's house, compared to, say, carrying an entire Dungeons and Dragons table setup of a game that's already been started. That's really, really hard to easily transfer from one place to another. So while I do like gimmicks and mechanics in collectible card games, shifting a collectible card game completely out of being a collectible card game is a little too much. And I think we saw a lot of that in Artifact also. It was just not as interesting a game after they tried to make it more like a League of Legends. So here's the Borderlands Twitter feed showing off what you can get during this in-game event. Vault Hunter skins, weapon trinkets, legendary guns, and an Echo device skin. Again, I would have preferred if this was a shift code, because it's going to kind of suck, and you're not even guaranteed that this event returns next year. So a different event could happen, no event could happen. Maybe those skins would get dropped randomly or just get added to the experience later. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Razor Edge Games announces Eden Falling coming to Steam Early Access this year. Which, let's see, on that screenshot I really couldn't tell what kind of game it is. They're saying it's a single and multiplayer CRPG. Is that Chinese RPG? Or is that a character RPG? In the tradition of tabletop gaming. I think it's a character RPG. Yeah, not a lot of info to take from that. Gamatsu has an article here. Conan Chop Chop has been delayed to Q2 of 2020. The Conan the Barbarian kind of silly hack and slash game. Definitely in a game that didn't need to be delayed, because you could have announced it much later, and you're not going to build a huge amount of hype around this style of looking game anyways. So it would have been better if they had locked down everything and ensured a smooth announce history instead of having to delay a game that people almost certainly weren't going to be excited enough of buying anyway. So now the delay is just going to kill whatever small amount of excitement it would have had regardless. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. The Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix Season Pass has been announced. I think the last thing that a music game should have is a season pass to give you, to charge you more money. Although I imagine these Hatsune Miku games are particularly expensive because you're effectively just buying soundtracks at a premium. Let's see. This isn't video game related, but TechRaptor has an article for the Marvel United tabletop title cracking 450,000 on Kickstarter. So I doubt the second dinner collectible card game based on Marvel characters is going to tie into Marvel United or probably any of the Marvel pre-existing card games or anything like that. I think it is going to just start over again from scratch. But I could definitely be wrong. Apparently I did not open the link talking about the Valentine's Day sale for Nutaku, but I'll just mention it and then move on. And then that brings me to the Humble Bundle store, which I doubt we're gonna get any new Humble Bundle games bundles for a while. They only put out 1 or 2 a month. And then that brings me back to my Twitter feed, which there probably is a key that would put me right at the top of that, but I don't know what key that would be. Probably something like shift page up if I was to guess, or control page up. So I'm having to roll the mouse wheel all the way up just to then turn around and roll the mouse wheel all the way down. There we go. Let's see, it doesn't seem like there's too much news. Jeff Keighley is going to skip E3 in 2020. Jeff Keighley is the guy who runs the Game Awards. I don't think he actually works for any company or any video game company, so it's not a big deal for him to skip, frankly. It's just someone slightly famous amongst video game journalists is not going to E3. Umahari Kawase Bazooka launches May 28th in Japan. We may talk about that more on Friday. Ubisoft's next Prince of Persia game is a VR escape room, which I didn't know that they were going to make any more Prince of Persia video games, because that's pretty much what they were trying to do, was shift, and I don't know why they thought this was going to be particularly a better way to do it, but they were trying to shift a story based on Persian characters and Middle Eastern characters. They were trying to shift that away from that style of gameplay and that style of story to the Assassin's Creed series. They didn't really succeed with the first Assassin's Creed game because you're still playing as Altair, a Middle Eastern person. But eventually, after Assassin's Creed 1, you did quickly have most of the characters move wester and more west as you went into Italy and the UK and America, and even when they went back to Origins, you're in Origins you're playing as basically an Egyptian person, but then Odyssey takes you to more of a Greek character. So yeah, I kind of assume that this VR VR escape room of Prince of Persia is just in existence so that they can keep a copyright on Prince of Persia, because they don't seem to really care one bit about keeping it in the people's minds or keeping people interested in playing any of the old Prince of Persia games. It would make a lot more sense, and maybe that's what they're testing here, is if, I guess, the VR game sold really, really well, which it almost certainly won't, maybe they'll make some remakes of the old games, and remakes are pretty much what would be required, not remasters. Resident Evil Resistance adds abandoned park and casino maps, a character named Alex Wesker and Oswell E. Spencer as masterminds. I don't know if those are characters you can play as or enemies that you fight. I did see a new mod as I was stuck in bed trying to have my back heal yesterday. There's this chemical exchange mod where you have to break everything down into chemical elements to build everything for Minecraft. It's a lot like the educational edition, if anybody's ever actually played with it, and I would argue even the educational edition, which is now built into the Bedrock edition of Minecraft, probably is better and more educational if you're trying to teach chemistry to kids playing Minecraft, which I'm not sure kids who play Minecraft are old enough to really learn much chemistry. But I would say that the mod kind of has you do some different things, whereas the educational edition seems like it mostly is just there to be a virtual lab in which you can experiment with chemicals and atoms. It seems like you're basically playing in creative mode when you're doing educational mode in Minecraft, where the chemical mod that I'm watching is different. It gives you actual quests and actual goals and actual gameplay, where I'd say the educational distance. Of course, there is always this problem that several of the items in Minecraft are not real items. Redstone isn't real, Instone isn't real, Netherrack is not real. So you're often using items that don't exist to create elements that do exist, and so you're not showing a great split. The Education Edition tries to do some of that, but they still don't really make it obvious when some elements are made up. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Activision Blizzard has pulled support for NVIDIA's GeForce Now streaming platform, which doesn't seem good since that's kind of brand new. Also, EA seems to have doubled the price of a lot of their games that they either brought back to Steam. So on EA's platform, they're half as expensive. So either the games that were brought back to Steam or were already on Steam. So yeah, EA coming back to Steam, but immediately trying to push people to leave Steam. So that's kind of crazy. Probably not gonna work too well either. Let's face it, EA's not full of great games these days, and definitely not the people to make that push. I wouldn't even say EA has something like Fortnite that could bring a lot of people over to the Epic launcher. I don't think many people went to the Epic launcher as their main launcher at all, because it still just doesn't have enough video games on it. Okay. Well, that's all the news that I'm going to cover today. So, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.